Senator Ron Johnson joins us right now from the great state of Wisconsin. Senator, appreciate you being with us, sir. I want to hop right into it. You have a piece in the Wall Street Journal, along with Mike Gallagher, repeal the 1974 budget law that fuels the shutdown cycle. I got to tell you, Senator, Clay and I are in the politics business, but we're also in the entertainment and information business, obviously. And the whole, the shutdown's coming, the shutdown's coming. The boy has cried wolf too many times. People tune out. They don't care. And the sense has become the politicians are just going to keep spending. How do we change that?
Yeah, first of all, the shutdown politics is ridiculous. The few times we've shut the government down, you shut down about 10%. Because the Democrat administration, they make it as painful as possible. So I would think reporters are getting sick of reporting on it. So let's just do away with it. There's an easy way of doing it. Just have automatic continuing resolutions, which would put an awful lot of pressure on the appropriations process to start going about its business a lot earlier in the year, so we're not sitting here passing our first appropriation bill a couple of weeks before the end of the fiscal year. Which, by the way, so as grotesquely as dysfunctional as Washington, D.C. is, people need to realize we have a very well-honed process for mortgaging our children's future, and we're watching it play out right now. Again, you really don't start the appropriations process till a couple of weeks before the end of the fiscal year. Force yourself into an automatic CR of some type, or a continuing resolution. You always have that thing expire right before Thanksgiving or on Christmas Eve. You put a lot of pressure. You develop through the appropriation committee. So a couple staff members, a few powerful members in Washington, the president, the minority leader of the Senate, the Speaker of the House. They come up with a 2,000-3,000 page massive omnibus spending bill. You pass it in a couple days, and you forget about it. You move on. So you don't give any scrutiny to all of these, this massive spending that's completely out of control. So, again, as a business guy, this is just an alternate universe here in Washington, D.C. So you've got to bring some order. You have to bring more process to this. So you start at least breaking these bills into 12 separate bills, giving them a couple of weeks floor time so that you really can start providing scrutiny to the ridiculous spending that's being proposed and being passed year after year.
Talking to Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, you have a business background which is all too rare, it feels like to me. You've had to make payroll. You understand how business works. What do you think someone looking at the United States budget and books would say purely from a business perspective about the state that our country's in?
It's bankrupt. I mean, in 2002, we passed the $2 trillion a year spending Rubicon. $2 trillion in 2002. 17 years later, in 2019, before the COVID pandemic, we spent $4.4 trillion. So then we had this massive spending spree during COVID, the COVID relief packages. We pretty well settled on a $6.4 trillion baseline spending now. We ramped up spending by almost $2 trillion per year in just 4 years, and the Uniparty is okay with it, I guess. So no, people from the outside looking in understand that America is destroying itself from within. I've said this in the past. If you were given the task of developing a strategy to destroy this country, you'd be hard-pressed to come with a better game plan than what President Biden and Democrats and the Uniparty is implementing. You start off by mortgaging our kids' future, drive our debt up to $33 trillion with no end in sight. You withdraw from Afghanistan, that dangerous surrender. That emboldens our enemies. You drive up inflation so that a dollar you held at the start of the Biden administration is only worth 85 cents. You go on a war on fossil fuel that powers our economy. You open up our borders, flood America with illegal immigrants and deadly drugs. This administration is causing America to circle the drain. And our enemies and our adversaries see it, which is why they're on the move in Ukraine. And Hamas is on its move out of Gaza and, that horrific terrorist attack. So when America is weak, the world is a more dangerous place, and the Biden administration leftists have weakened America and made the world a more dangerous place.
Senator Johnson, do you think that Republicans really have the stomach to do what is necessary to turn this around, though? I mean, we've been talking about how much money is being spent, and the debt has been a central issue for Republicans in politics for really as long as I've been alive. But going just back to the Tea Party era of 2010, that was the primary issue, right? Under the Obama administration, we're spending too much money. On the last year of Trump, I think we spent $6 trillion, right, additional. And now under Biden, we've spent trillions and trillions more. It just feels like this is a problem that everybody knows exists. But I'm not convinced that people want to deal with it until they realize it means there's going to be changes, like they're going to have to change the retirement age, or they're going to have to change the way Medicare is structured with means testing, or do you know what I mean? It just feels like we're chasing our tail with this a lot of the time.
Well, the public does need to understand why a dollar they held at the start of the Biden administration is only worth 85 cents. It's a massive deficit spending. So the public has to be educated. They need to support people, like Jim Jordan, to become speaker. And again, I think with the correct leadership, with dedicated leadership, fiscal conservatives, I think we can turn this thing around. But we can't be led by members of the uniparty. And so that's why I've been such a strong supporter of Jim Jordan, who to me is, not only incredibly intelligent, a true fiscal conservative, but a very practical individual. I got here in 2011. Jim was in the House. Together we were working on something called Cut, Cap, and Balance, would put pressure on leadership to eventually pass the Budget Control Act, which actually reduced discretionary spending 3 years in a row. Now, Congress weaseled out of it. The uniparty figured out how to get by sequester, but that's the kind of leadership you need. Again, I just hope the House gets this act together. I hope House members elect Jim as Speaker. He's a very practical individual. He's about achievable goals, but he's a true fiscal conservative. His instincts are on the right side. And when I say that, I mean his instincts are to stop the mortgaging of our children's future, and he's incredibly articulate, and I think he'd be able to explain that to the American public, unlike previous speakers.
Senator, I saw the CDC bragging that 2% of the American public so far has gotten their updated COVID booster shot. Now, I know you're an NFL fan. You've probably seen these ridiculous Travis Kelce commercials. No telling what Pfizer is spending on those things on a week-to-week basis. But what does it tell you so far that 98% of Americans are saying, yeah, I think I've done enough. I'm not going to go get the COVID booster?
Well, it tells you that people like you two, people like myself, Peter McCulloch, the other brave doctors who were willing to tell the truth during the COVID pandemic and, lay out the fact that, there are COVID vaccine injuries. They are causing death. They are causing permanent disability, and I think more and more people are awakening to that fact. As much as it's being blocked and censored by the mainstream media, the COVID cartel, you see the surveys. Most Americans know somebody who's injured by the COVID vaccine. And so they're saying, yeah, maybe thought it was a good idea back there when I was scared, from the pandemic, as the COVID cartel fear-mongered about a pandemic that ended up being maybe worse than a bad flu season, but not much worse, okay? If you were young and healthy, COVID was not something really to worry too much about, is the vulnerables, the elderly, people with certain comorbidities. So as much as the COVID cartel has censored the truth, I think the truth has gotten out, which is the reason I'd imagine the uptake of these boosters is really pretty measly.
Senator Ron Johnson, appreciate you being with us, sir.
Have a great day.